just put like we're talking about energy. So I think we should be over there potentially.
It says live on my side.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good, great. So let me close this out and definitely don't want to see this part. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, great to see you.
I'm happy
we are
to be here.
playing around with this live streaming onto YouTube, and what we're doing is we're recording a audio episode of the Functionally Fit podcast, and I'm Jenn Rice, and today I'm joined with Colleen Evans. Hello there.
Hello, nice to see you.
Welcome. So I'm going to, because this is kind of a behind the scenes YouTube, we haven't started recording the actual podcast audio yet. We're going to hit that in just a second, and then you'll hear me reintroduce Colleen, but I hope you'll stick around to hear her story, how she's helping moms now with young kids kind of get that more energy, who doesn't need more energy, but especially, with all of the responsibilities around the holiday season too. I didn't want to wait till we got the recording all packaged to have this out there, because this could be helpful for anyone, on YouTube that's looking for this kind of information. And this way we're not hiding anything, right, Colleen? Yeah. We're getting it out there. So if you have questions, though, for me or Colleen in particular, as you're watching this on YouTube, you could just put something in the comments about the question. We'll make sure that one of us sees it and answers you, or at least connects with you. Colleen's going to give her Instagram information too, so you can kind of pop over there and direct message her. And I hope you guys enjoy the recording. So let me see here. Hello and welcome to the Functionally Fit podcast. I'm Jenn Rice, and today I have a wonderful guest who's joining us from Alexandria, Virginia. Her name is Colleen Evans. Welcome, Colleen.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so Colleen and I met due to like a shared love and passion for helping other people with health concerns and health issues. And specifically though, Colleen has a great story around, how she even became involved with doing the kind of work she's doing. And I can't wait for her to get to share that with her, but share that with you guys. But to kind of start off, Colleen, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about you. And you have some really cool history of how you became involved in health and fitness. And I'd love for listeners to hear a little bit about you and your background. So if you could just share a little bit with us, that'd be great.
Sure. So movement and fitness has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I started jump roping at 8 years old. So I was on a team and we would perform and do events for the American Heart Association. And then I got more serious about competing and things as I got older. So that's been a part of my life forever. I started taking gymnastics along with jump rope because we did some acrobatic stuff. And then I started doing some different types of performing and traveling and competing as I got older. And I basically did that all the way through until right before I had my babies. Let's see if I missed anything there. I was coaching jump rope and gymnastics starting at like 12. So then
so you were a child gymnast where you started very young with your parents, or?
Yeah, I've never competed specifically in gymnastics, but I competed for jump rope. And again, I started competing the year after I started training at 8 years old. So again, that part was a part of my life for forever. And I think there's some really valuable lessons I learned from that. And it's just a huge part of my identity. And then after I had my babies, I started to feel really not good. And so that's kind of what led me down the rabbit hole of more of the nutrition and other sort of stress management things that need to come along with life in general, but I think specifically motherhood.
Oh, I love that. And before we go to that part on your own health, concerns that you were having, I just wondered, because to me, this competitive jump roping is really fascinating. And how how would you find out that that was something, how did you find out that was something that you were like good at? Was it just common in your area or?
So for me, I was at the right place at the right time. Okay. I moved from one elementary school to another, and the program was based in my elementary school. I know a lot of my team would go and teach classes at other elementary schools. So it's a fairly new sport, right? So they're still working on it. Just became a college sport. Like now they're working on they have a foundation where they're working on getting into the colleges, but and obviously working on getting it into the Olympics and things like that. But since it's very new, a lot of it starts with after school programs. So a lot of elementary schools will have an after school program, or you can see if there's a team in your area. But that's kind of,
well, you know what I love about that in particular is that to see the rise of things that are not expensive to do, like there's not a lot of cost incurred with like buying equipment to participate, right? So it definitely helps with this. I mean, I guess you could say like basketball is probably one of those things too, where you buy a ball and but I think there are a lot of sports like skiing, maybe even lacrosse and some of these other, I hear about moms that struggle a lot to pay for different sports.
And they're just not super accessible depending on where you are and what equipment you have access to. Yeah. Basically you need a plastic jump rope and some shoes and a space, right?
And the will to like be able to learn, right? Or want to, or have like a little spark that may ignite. So I just think that's a really cool sport to have come to light. And I know over the years, jump roping, it's very good for you too, right? Cardiovascularly and like the actual repetition. Maybe you could share a little bit more on like, is that like that balance?
Yeah, there's something about the rebounding. Yeah. I mean, we know that movement is a stress relief. Jump rope is a great cardio workout, but there's also something about the bouncing that helps lymphatic fluid flow and drain. And I don't know the scientific terms for it necessarily, but there's also something that happens at the cellular level there with that type of movement that can help with healing. And
and it's like, and you stayed, you felt like the fitness level was, I mean, good for you as far as.
Yeah, it's definitely a full body workout, even just jumping, but obviously I was doing more acrobatic stuff. So you're working on everything, but even just jumping is really good for overall fitness.
Yeah. I think we forget about that as an option too, when people are looking for a health routine. I mean, obviously not going into it to the extent that, you've been involved, but even to pick up a jump rope and do something like that is like a place you could start at the ground and work your way up, which I always underestimate the power of jump roping.
Yeah. And I think along with that, I think we forget as adults to play. And I think there's so many things you can do with a jump rope, which makes it really fun. And if you've got kids that are young enough or like old enough to try it, you can do it with you. But another interesting thing that I heard somebody talk about recently, who didn't come from a jump rope background, but she loved jump rope for the kind of meditative state she can get into. It's just like you were saying, the repetitive movement. And she likened it to kind of like runners, how runners can kind of get into a zone. And she kind of got that way with jump rope. So that's another interesting sort of tidbit.
I think that's so there's also that noise that some will make, that depending on the type of jump rope, right? That and I jump roped a little bit in elementary school, but it is something that I think is probably easy to pick back up for people, physical fitness wise. Of course, as long as you're not having a lot of knee hip problems or things. Right. So but that's so cool. And I've never met a competitive jump roper. So this is really fun for me too. And I think it's spreading awareness that, there's so many things that people can get involved in, and, different things that aren't exactly like the regular, track or, field hockey or this or that. And it does open up other areas, I think, for anyone that's, looking for that for their kids.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us a little, I know then you you had your children, which is wonderful. And though you started to experience like hormonal shifts, or what went on exactly?
So really looking back now, I'm starting to recognize some of the things that were probably clues that something hormonal was going on earlier. And I just didn't know it at the time, like things that were irregular about my cycle, and then they would be fine again. And then it was actually, I was doing a circus tour with jump rope. And then I started to have some weird symptoms, like I had heart palpitations and things like that. And so that's when they told me that something was going on with my thyroid. So that actually happened before having babies. And then it wasn't until having the boys that I went ahead and started taking the thyroid medication. But I had difficult pregnancies. I had to have, basically the boys were back to back. So they're 13 months apart. And then in that 2-year period, I had 4 small procedures and then ending with an emergency C-section. So I had 5 surgeries, and then I had antibiotics. So multiple rounds of antibiotics and 5 surgeries in 2 years. So that'll do it to anybody, let alone.
And what age were you?
I was, let's see, I was pregnant with my first while I was 30. So kind of, I mean, I feel like now that's mid-range. That's kind
early
of
30s. Yeah. Okay.
I was 30 and let's see, I had him when I was 30, just turned 31. And then the next day was 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the thyroid condition was discovered in your early 30s.
Yes.
Or
just in my late 20s.
Okay. That's, yeah. That we're hearing that more and more. Because, you know, this used to be a condition that was largely 40s, 50, you know, like, so, but now we sort of are seeing the shift, which I think there's probably multiple reasons for this. So a lot of it's environmental,
you
know, just toxins in the atmosphere and that we're exposed to that aren't really measurable. You know, you can't really measure all these things that our bodies deal with, food quality, all that kind of thing. Because it's not like it happened to you because you were sedentary and did not have an active life or a positive life, you know, going on around you. It was, it happened anyway in spite of, right?
Right. And this is another one of the things looking back where, like, generally my family ate fairly well. I mean, there were 4 of us and 4 kids. So we were, I would say low middle income kind of. So it was like lots of potatoes and just kind of standard, like my mom cooked at home. There was nothing, it was kind of the healthy version of the standard American diet, I would say. Like both my parents came from farming backgrounds. So we ate good food at home, but I mean, I don't know. I ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day during high school. So that was like probably on me, right? But it was like the best version of a peanut butter and jelly you could get, probably. But still, it's like, that's a lot of gluten and a lot of, you know, things that now are less easy for our bodies to process, I think, than they would have been years ago, because the process is different on how we make our bread in America, right? Like, so there's lots of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think the way, you know, I remember eating growing up, you know, in the 70s, 80s, and I mean, it was a lot of McDonald's and things like that, but I even think the quality of those fast food was just even different than what where we're at now.
Right.
So you experience these surgeries, you have a lot of antibiotics on board. You start obviously thinking you should be healing quickly and feeling amazing. And now you're with young children at home and you're not feeling amazing and you're not healing very quickly. And so you start looking for other answers outside of just the, you know, maybe the OBGYN office or your primary care doctor office. And what did you first find in holistic health that was helpful to you? Yeah.
So I did a lot of this on my own, trying to figure it out on my own, which I think made it take a lot longer than it needed to. But initially I did go to a naturopath because I was so tired and my brain I was like, I couldn't even form a sentence. So I have this memory of going in and seeing the naturopath and I couldn't get a sentence out. And I couldn't remember the words I was trying to say. And he's like, okay, we need to get you on some fish oil. Like, let's get you some. And he had me do nettle tea tinctures, because it's just really or it has a lot of minerals and things. So he just was trying to get, and then he also wanted me to focus on just like walking, because I was so used to this intense exercise and I was like, so tired, right? But that's what I was used to and was my normal. And he said, you need to like let your exercise be walking, and you need to try to do some breathing, and let's get some nutrients in you and get your brain some more good fats and things like that. So he started me on some of this stuff, and then I started kind of digging down the rabbit hole and experimenting with. Also, my little boy, my second, was having digestive issues. So he was a C-section, which that can contribute to that. But so he was having digestive issues and I was breastfeeding. So I was trying to figure out, I was taking foods out and trying to figure out what would help him feel better, because he had stomach aches. So then nobody's sleeping and all of this. So that was another huge thing, I think, for a year and a half after him, like sleep was super inconsistent. So there was just a lot of ways that my body was drained. And so I was trying to figure out what to do to get it what it needed. And that's actually during that period that I ended up taking out gluten and dairy.
Okay. Yep, I'm gluten and dairy free also. I think naturopaths are fantastic. I always recommend naturopathic doctors for people, or doctors of Oriental medicine, or of course, you could do functional medicine with a nurse practitioner, PA, MD, DO, who, some chiropractors are very well versed in certain things with that too. So it's nice to have this whole, I think, sources, but then there's still a little bit of hesitancy for some people to go to these type of practices. Probably with some good reason, and that they hear stories of having to buy 10,000 supplements, or having it be obviously not covered by insurance, that kind of thing. And I think that's where this whole trust issue comes in, and trying to form connections with people that you can trust, that you want to work with. And is that kind of how you got into health coaching, is to be able to kind of be that resource for people that they can feel comfortable talking about and coming to you for help?
Yeah. And I think having somebody who's been through it, I think, and can share their experience can be helpful. Not that you have to have been through it, or anybody's going to have the exact same experience as me, but I can tell them firsthand, this helped me, this helped me, this helped me. And if it can shorten anyone else's health journey, I'm all for it.
Yeah. The whole purpose, I think, of coaching is and the reason I've hired coaches for all different things, whether it's business or mindset, or, how to invest properly, whatever it might be, money, relationships, is because you want to try to prevent, unnecessarily time spending. Exactly. That you don't need. And so you're kind of cutting the corner. It's not that you don't have to do any work, or that you're not going to have to sacrifice some energy and input to it, but it will, I think it's a very powerful thing. And when it comes to health, I think people are sometimes a little bit hesitant to do it, because they figure, there's a lot of guilt right around, even like, you have children. So this may, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think a lot of times it's like, well, I want to spend the money on my kids, or I want to spend the money on this, something that hasn't, and so investing in yourself.
Yes, that's actually one of the huge things that I had to learn. And I still have to remind myself, right? Because I think we're so used to giving everything to our kids, but really, like, if you don't spend that time and energy on healing yourself and making sure that you're fulfilled, you're not going to show up fully for them. Right. And that's one of the things I have to remind myself all the time.
Yeah. I think that's so, if nothing else, as people are, planning for what they're looking to do for 2023, it's really key to schedule in, not just like, okay, I'm investing in these things. Okay, this is what I'm doing for my work. I'm scheduling myself this many vacations, whatever that looks like.
Mhm.
You need to schedule in, like, how are you going to be focusing on self-care, and what do those things look like? And how, if you're really struggling, I think, with some health issues that aren't getting resolved with regular, primary care doctors, or you feel like you've been down that road and you just keep getting more medications and these kind of things, I think it can be really a time to think about health in general and what you want to do with that. And when it comes to the type of client, though, that you work with, it's you really have focused in on trying to help moms with their energy levels, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, like, how you help someone with, like, energy and what that kind of looks like when you work with people. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, the other thing I think about, especially being a mom with young kids, is the things that you do for yourself, I think, need to be simple. Yes, sometimes we can schedule a massage or a pedicure or whatever, something that takes longer and is out of the house, but also you need to be able to just add in some little steps that you can do every day, and even just one at a time. This is the other thing. Like, don't try to do a bazillion things at a time. But for me, it's implementing little things that you can add and make them a part of your routine. And some of these little things make such a huge difference. And it can be as simple as, like, taking 3 to 5 minutes in the morning to take some deep breaths by yourself, right? Like, your day is full of chaos with little kids. And it's amazing how something like some deep breaths in the morning, or moving your body in the morning, getting a bunch of water in the morning, these things can affect your energy levels throughout the day. And I honestly notice a huge difference when I don't do them. Like, I just feel sluggish the rest of the day. And they're simple. That's simple, right? That's not that hard to do.
No, and it's free.
Yes. Water.
And you don't have to get a special app for it, or
no.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I do in the morning, especially, I think that I found have made a huge difference. Is first thing, water. And then I do it out on my deck. I just go out to the deck and I move and breathe for like 3 minutes. And so that I'm getting the sunlight in the morning, and I'm just sort of setting my nervous system to calm,
Yes.
Because the rest of the day, it's like, go, go, go.
Yeah. So. And so then you provide, I know accountability can be a big piece in the coaching, and that's why, coaching can be so successful, is that when you just kind of go it alone, or just say, okay, well, yeah, every morning I'm going to go outside and do what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, most of the time that lasts a little while,
and then something happens,
and then it's like, I'm just gonna go down and get coffee, and then maybe later I'll go out so it does provide, like, a I would think, like anything that we do it with classes or learning, it takes a long time to ingrain something,
right? To make it a habit. And it helps to have somebody to check in with. And the idea is not to make you feel guilty if you didn't do it, but to remind you that it's okay. And let's try it again. Or, like, let's see if you like to doing it this different way better, right? Like, so it's just having somebody to come back to, bounce ideas off of, see how it's going, give you some encouragement.
And before we, wrap up, I wanted to see if maybe you would mind sharing, like, a, someone that you've helped, like a story of where someone was and what they came to you with, and, how you maybe helped them through something. And that could give listeners a little peek into, the type of work that you're mainly focused on.
Sure. One of the gals who I've worked as a friend with mine, she's a friend of mine, and she was having kind of all sorts of hormonal issues. And it was, she was feeling like the energy was low, and she wasn't super concerned about her weight, but she was noticing that the weight wasn't coming off. And as soon as we started talking about some of her symptoms, I was like, okay, it really sounds like your hormones are kind of all over the place. So that's where we kind of started with. And she was also one of the people who was trying to focus on, like, really doing some she knew she needed to move, but she was focusing on more extreme exercise. So I said, look, your stress levels are high. So let's try walking and let it be okay that you walk. And when you feel like you have energy and you want to do something more, do something more. But when you feel like you need to just walk, let it be okay to just walk. So things like that, where we got to sort of look at her routine, see what was going well, and then give her permission almost in certain ways, and open her eyes to the fact that it doesn't always need to be this one way. There's multiple things that can be good for your body, and your body's not always going to need the same thing. So that was one of the things I think was really helpful for her to be able to say, like, sometimes I'm going to need this, sometimes it's going to be different, and that's okay. And so now then she got to kind of go down the rabbit hole too. I recommended a book for her, and then she was like, oh, I got this one and this one and this one. And so it was fun to see her get excited about it on her own, and start to do some research on her own and see what she liked.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. I think it's like that ripple effect and the, you know, the power of, you know, like you're saying, like a small movement or a small implementation, not like all the things all at once, but just like gradually.
Yeah. I mean, and think about on a path, you move 1 degree, one direction. After a period of time, you have a significantly different destination, right? So even 1 degree of change can make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's so great. Well, we so appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was great to have you. And if somebody wants to connect with you more and to just learn a little bit more, I know you have some exciting things coming up in the new year, but as far as like, you know, connecting with you more, would Instagram be the best place for that?
Yeah, Instagram would be the best place for now. And then I'll have some more information about my program coming up on there. And it's, let's see, I just changed it slightly. It's Coach Colleen, like Calling, calling on the phone.
Oh,
Coach Colleen. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. So it's COACHCALLING.
It's Calling, CALLING, Coach Colleen.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to put that in the notes.
I'll put it in the notes.
Awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. So, and then website wise, I know you have that coming soon, and we'll make sure to put that in the in the show notes too. And we can we'll keep updated with all the things going on. And any you know, before we kind of close out, anything that you can recommend as a sort of last minute holiday tip for moms that are just like, maybe their hair is on fire currently, or they're listening to this and they're just like, oh, I need like something to do like right away to just sort of start feeling a little bit better. What is there one tip you could give them?
The first thing that jumps to mind for me is take a deep breath. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but really taking a deep breath, or like taking a few deep, slow breaths, can actually help reset your nervous system. So I like to go take a deep breath in, just fill everything up, hold it for 4, and then make your exhale slower than your inhale. So you can be in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, whatever. You can work it up, but just basically fill everything up, hold it for a minute, not a full minute, but hold it for like 4 or 5 seconds, and then let it out slowly. And do like 3 of those even, and it just gives you a little reset.
I love that. Breathing is so key and really simple, but we forget about it a lot. Yeah.
The other thing I would say is water and protein. Like if you're feeling like stressed even, or like you're crashing or whatever, instead of reaching for the chocolate, I know I love the chocolate too, but instead of the chocolate or the coffee or whatever, or in addition to it, like if you're still going to have the coffee or the chocolate, get some protein, some fat, some water.
Yes. The carbs are so easy to grab for this time of day, like all the snacks and all the things that come into like offices and homes, and everything's around sugar and cookies and cakes and candies and so,
and not to deprive yourself, but make sure that you're getting something that's going to sustain you a little bit more.
Is that really gonna, it helps you for a minute, I'll be honest, but after a couple minutes, it's sort of like you're kind of where you started.
Yeah, or lower.
Yeah,
Kind of a crash.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 Well, thanks so much for coming on. We so
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks so
having you,
much.
and hopefully we'll have you back again when things are rolling after the new year too.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to it.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
If you're watching the live stream, we appreciate you viewing either the live or the recording. This is going to be an audio version. They'll be ready probably after the new year. I think we'll be releasing it. But if you have any questions, like I mentioned before, for Colleen or me, just put